Thank you for joining us today on another episode of Data Dialogues. My name is Larissa Beckett, and I am the head of marketing at Porch Group Media. And joining me today is Brandon Turnbull. He is the founder of Outbound Scale. So welcome, Brandon.
Thanks for having me, Larissa.
So we had done a previous episode that I invite you all to check out on just how we're using AI in our marketing processes. I've worked with Brandon for some time now on some of my marketing activities at Porch Group Media, as well as Welcome Wagon and Porch Pro. And Brandon has taught me a lot of different ways to use AI in ways I hadn't really thought of. So we thought this would be kind of a fun time to just chat about AI versus human marketers and what is the right balance, because AI and human marketers both bring something to the table, and when they come together, that's when the magic happens. So let us begin. So in the previous episode, we had talked about how AI is really, really transforming. I mean, so many industries, but obviously we're talking about marketing. But what it is not doing is replacing human creativity. I mean, I know people may beg to differ, but really, you and I are of the mindset that AI is great at certain things, but what a human marketer can bring to the table, that's where we can create the best possible combination of campaigns and messaging. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I think that a lot of times people think that AI is going to be kind of the replacement to their work or to their really jumping in and doing a bulk of the work for them. And I think there's definitely places where that can be the case, but where I see it is using it in more strategic ways to speed up your processes or current workflows that you have, and especially when it comes to doing research and things like that. I don't think that AI right now is at a place where it can actually replace someone as a marketer, but what it can do is enable someone to really speed up and enhance what they're doing on their job already, versus completely replacing them. And I think that one of the things that I see, and that where I use it a lot in my day-to-day is really doing quick research on certain things or certain topics that maybe I don't have an in-depth knowledge about, but I'm looking to create some type of marketing material for, and having it at least do that base research that I can then kind of take a human perspective and put it into context and kind of come up with how we could use that research in a specific way in the marketing campaigns that we have.
Just actually yesterday, I had written an email. It was to another executive. So I really wanted to make sure it was formatted in a way that was easy to understand, bullet points and so forth. So I wrote the email. It was a little bit more of a flow of thought, just getting my ideas out. I did take what were my insights, my thoughts. I did take that raw block of copy and asked AI to format it in a way where it was easier to read. I asked it to add more white space, break it out into bullet formats. And then the output was just so much better. Again, it was my humanness, my insights, my thoughts that fed AI, and then where AI excelled was processing this input of information. And it just, the end result I thought was pretty exceptional.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that lends to, just speeding up a process where, you'd have to take the time to go through and edit that and kind of change it around. And, that may take a good chunk of time for you, but where you can kind of use AI and have it really structure out the data, and you can give it a very specific task and how you want it to what you're expecting for the outcome. It's one of those things where it's really making things just a lot more efficient.
What I'm hearing us say is, what AI does better is really that data processing, that trend analysis. But when humans do better here is, we feed the data, the creative aspects to the data. Maybe we can bring the emotions to storytelling based on what the data tells us. So again, if we're sharing as a marketer, anyways, when we have large sets of data and there's trends that have evolved through data processing, as a marketer, we want to be able to often tell that in a way that people can relate to, and that's that emotional storytelling and so forth. So again, it brings those two aspects together very nicely.
Yeah, it really does, and I think that with AI right now, it's great to where I really find it, where I utilize it a lot is I think it's great for like really researching a topic in a very complex manner. So especially products that are really technical, when you're trying to kind of translate that into marketing, it can be challenging. But I think that it kind of gives you the ability to do that research and find gaps in, whether it's the gaps in the content or different ways that you could think about the problem, where you might have to spend hours and hours researching that topic, where now you can have that topic condensed down into a format that allows you to understand it and kind of translate that into a marketing material that your customer will understand as well.
Yeah. Um, that reminds me of, well, another way that I've used AI recently is, again, like how to translate something in a way that others can understand it. And I am not a huge Excel whiz by any means, but I do like a good chart to tell a story, when I'm presenting my marketing KPIs. So just recently, I had a paragraph of text on, the results I was seeing, that I wasn't quite sure how to lay it out in a chart format. So I just input the paragraph into AI and asked it to analyze and prepare a couple of different charts as a way to present the data. And it came up with, some that were not great, but, one or two, I was like, oh, yeah, that is it. I made a couple of tweaks and was able to input that into my report. And I didn't have to struggle with Excel and pivot tables and so forth to create it.
Yeah, no, no, for sure. It's great for things like that. And kind of one area where I really like using it is kind of coming up with unique ways, or unique ways that you could reach out to certain people, or unique angles that you could take in your marketing materials. So as an example, like giving it the information on, like, here's the types of individuals that we're reaching out to, giving it information about that, giving it information about what you offer, and having it come up with ideas on how you could approach those people, or what messaging might resonate with them. And now it might put out 20 different things for you to look at, and while maybe 18 or 19 of those might not be very good, but there's usually one or two that are really interesting that
Mhm.
you wouldn't have thought of, that are kind of outside the box. So yeah, I think there's a lot of really bad messaging that comes out of
Right.
ChatGPT that you see in marketing, or all around. But I think there are some interesting ideas that can come out of it. But yeah, you really have to rely on kind of human context to make sure that you're getting something that makes sense, and that really makes sense for your consumer as well.
If you work with AI, and you work with it regularly, you can start to see copy that was clearly AI generated. ChatGPT, for example, loves to use certain buzzwords. So as soon as I see something in the ever evolving, oh gosh, the ever evolving industry of marketing, the dynamic way that we do that, and then rocket ship emoji, I'm like, okay, that's AI. So, yeah, you kind of start to, like, you can't unsee it. Then there's certain things that are just like such AI favorite phrases that it loves to use. Maybe it's going to write 20 different suggestions, but it's up to us as the human marketer to, like, no, that one's trash. This one's okay.
Yeah, yeah, and we talked on this last episode, but I think like the thing that people don't realize is, like, all the data that it's trained on. There's a lot of junk data that it's looking at. So even though it does have some good marketing ideas, there's a lot of really terrible ones as well that it's trained on. So you have to kind of remember that and make sure that usually the content that you mentioned, where you really can tell that it's AI generated, a lot of times it just doesn't have that human in the loop to take a second look at it and understand that it's really probably not a great piece to put out.
Right. One of the other things that is an example that everybody should be aware of is AI driven recommendations when you go into Amazon or Netflix. AI is analyzing all these different actions that you take, all the things that you look at in Amazon and shop for, and gives you tailored suggestions so quickly based on that. AI is infused into so many of our daily processes that we aren't even aware of sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think that again, that kind of lends to its power with like processing data and analyzing data and just understanding, what's the best thing based on all of the data we have on this individual. What are they most likely to purchase next? I think things like that are where it's very very good at analyzing that data at scale. And you're right, it's really everywhere around us, where even if we don't know it.
We talk about what AI can do better as far as data processing and so forth. So I'm looking at some notes that we had for this podcast, and kind of to that, what you just mentioned. So AI can analyze past campaigns to come up with trends and so forth. But what a human marketer can do is create that next viral moment. So, we have the human capacity to understand humor, I think, in a way that certainly outbeats AI, and a way to connect with other human beings in a way that hopefully AI has not mastered yet. I don't know. There's AI dating apps out there now, so I'm not even going to touch that. But the human aspect of how we connect with others, and just like creating like a viral moment on social media or whatever it is, those, at least for the time being, are definitely human aspects of what it means to be a marketer.
Yeah, definitely. And I think too that, right now where there is so much AI generated content, it's one of those things where even if you don't notice it consciously, I think subconsciously you pick up on those little pieces of content that have that human touch to them. And they really stand out a little bit more, I find, where when you're looking through and you see these AI generated posts or AI generated blogs or things like that, for whatever reason, it just doesn't stand out. I think there is something about that human touch that, even if you don't notice it consciously, I think subconsciously you kind of pick up on those little
Yes,
trends.
for sure. I know I do that when I'm reading things. I'm like, but is it really you writing that? There's just something that just does not. Sometimes you just can't put your finger on it, but just something that does not quite resonate as authentic. So
Definitely.
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
One last area, and I know we've kind of talked about this actually a little bit throughout, but I just want to talk a little bit about kind of what we see as the future of an AI assisted marketing team. So how AI and marketing can actually kind of be on a team together. Again, we're not talking about AI, coming into the workplace as like an actual, robot, but it can handle, like, you outsource your tasks to it. And so, for example, like AI kind of as your co-pilot, it's again automating. You just go to AI, whatever platform or tool that you've chosen, to do some of those data heavy tasks, to create the analysis. And then it goes to marketing to focus on the creative and the strategy to make that analysis come alive. And again, that's what we've been talking throughout this whole uh, program, this whole podcast episode. But again, it's really, that's really the future of those AI processes and human processes coming together.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's definitely a lot of value in using it kind of as a co-pilot. And I really think that, in the future, I really see it. And this is probably even happening now to a certain degree, but I think that, companies or individuals having like their own kind of model that they train on specific data. So whether that be, certain campaigns that have performed really well for you and what those look like, and more context on, why you were what audience you were actually marketing to, what the kind of thought process was behind it, and giving it a lot more information on all that. And I almost think of it as like training, kind of like a marketing assistant, where you're giving it all that context and more information about what makes a good campaign, so that the next time you give it data and ask it to either come up with a strategy or come up with maybe some drafts of an email, or drafts of some content that you want to put out, or some ideas, it's better able to understand what were good outputs previously, and kind of move its work in the future towards kind of replicating those really top performing campaigns.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to stop. That is really, for the beginning of Chat GPT to how we see kind of, the future of marketing teams to look, with AI and the human element working in tandem and creating the best results. I love it. This was a lot of fun. I know there's a lot more in the world of AI that we can touch on, but as AI evolves, maybe we'll do some more podcasts like later, probably in the next couple of months, as quickly as it's evolving.
Yeah, as quickly as it's changing, yeah, we might have to.
Yeah, but it was an absolute pleasure to chat with you. And for all of you joining today, hope you enjoyed our AI chats. Join us for the next podcast. We release new episodes every Wednesday, so take a look for those. And in the meantime, stay data driven, and we will see you in the future. Thanks all. Take care.